Welcome to Piscean Ponderings, episode 3. I'm really glad to have everyone here watching, or no one watching, because, hey, the algorithm just flushes us all out to the bottom at the end of the day. I'm thankful for my 97 subscribers. It's just the algorithm. It's all fucked up because of the amount of people we have online at all times. So, I'm going to talk about advanced astrology statistics, evidence, and research. A comprehensive degree framework. So, let's talk about the history, evidence, and science. Essentially, I'm going to talk about the foundations of astrological history and epistemology. The Babylonian origins from omens to system with the core content. The earliest astrological records emerged from Mesopotamia, where celestial observation was inseparable from royal divination. The Enuma Anu Enlil, a series of 70 cuneiform tablets containing approximately 7,000 celestial omens, represents the first systematic attempt to codify relationships between sky and earth. What you must understand as a student of astrology, and even, just astrologers in general, Babylonian astrology was initially mundane, concerned with the fate of kings and nations rather than individuals. This distinction is crucial for understanding how astrological epistemology evolved. The Venus tablet of Amisa Aluka, dating to approximately 1700 BCE, documents observations of Venus appearances and disappearances, correlating them with political and environmental outcomes. Recent scholarship by John Steele has examined whether Babylonian astral science should be classified as theoretical in the modern sense, concluding that while their methods were empirical and systematic, they operated within a fundamentally different epistemological framework. So, in my last video I was talking a little bit about some of this stuff, but just more about what I want to get into this year in general and learn about more this year. So, let's talk about Hellenistic astrology, just the birth of horoscopy. So the conquest of Alexander the Great created the conditions for a profound synthesis of Babylonian, Egyptian, and Greek astrological traditions. In Ptolemaic Alexandria, Babylonian planetary techniques merged with Egyptian decanic systems and Greek philosophical frameworks to create horoscopic astrology, the system that would dominate Western practice for 2 millennia. The Tetrabiblos of Claudius Ptolemy represents the most influential astrological text in Western history. Described as having enjoyed almost the authority of a Bible among the astrological writers of 1,000 years or more. Students of astrology, in my opinion, must engage critically with Ptolemy's Aristotelian framework, understanding how his naturalistic approach shaped subsequent astrological thoughts while also limiting certain lines of inquiry. Also, the anthologies of Vitius Valens, discovered in incomplete form and only fully recovered in the 20th century, offers a counterpoint to Ptolemy's theoretical approach. Valens was a practicing astrologer who preserved hundreds of example charts and techniques that Ptolemy omitted. His work provides invaluable data for understanding how astrology was actually practiced. So, learning objectives would consist of comparing and contrasting Ptolemaic and Valentian approaches, understanding the decanic system and its Egyptian origins, analyzing the philosophical assumptions underlying Hellenistic astrology. Alright, I've also talked about this in my other video. It's kind of like a follow-up. The Islamic transmission and medieval synthesis, so the Abbasid translation movement of the 8th through 10th centuries preserved and expanded the Greek astrological corpus. Abu Mashar al-Balkhi essentially synthesized Aristotelian natural philosophy with astrological doctrine in his great introduction, which was later translated into Latin and became foundational for medieval European astrology. Recent scholarship has demonstrated that astrology was taught as a legitimate academic discipline at major medieval universities. As documented in the Cambridge History of Science, astrology was taught from the beginning of the 14th century as an important part of the arts and science curriculum at the great medieval and Renaissance universities, including Padua, Bologna, and Paris. There, astrology was studied within three distinct scientific disciplines: mathematics, natural philosophy, and medicine, and served to integrate astronomy, geography, and geometric optics with Aristotelian natural philosophy. Our goal is to trace the transmission of astrological texts from Greek to Arabic to Latin, understand astrology's role in medieval university curricula, analyze the relationship between astrology and natural philosophy. The scientific revolution and astrology's marginalization. So, the 17th century witnessed astrology's gradual exclusion from legitimate natural knowledge. This process was neither simple nor linear. As Cambridge scholars note, astrology's integration of astronomy and natural philosophy under the aegis of mathematics had much in common with the aims of the new science of the 17th century. Thus, it becomes necessary to explain why this promising astrological synthesis was rejected. We must understand as astrologers that astrology's marginalization resulted from multiple factors. The mechanical philosophy's rejection of action at a distance, the heliocentric reconfiguration of cosmic hierarchies, the rise of probabilistic thinking, and changing standards of evidence. The story is complex and reveals much about how scientific boundaries are constructed and maintained. So we analyze the multiple factors contributing to astrology's marginalization, we evaluate the relationship between astrology and early modern science, and we understand the social and institutional dimensions of scientific boundary work. Excuse me. So phase 2, we're going over quantitative research methods for astrology. Yes, statistical foundations. So, sorry for my chairs being all rocky. Astrological research requires rigorous statistical methodology. This module essentially will cover descriptive and inferential statistics, probability theory, hypothesis testing, and effect sizes. Essentially, our goal is to help you learn to distinguish statistical significance from practical significance and to avoid common pitfalls such as p-hacking and multiple comparison problems. Going over the proposition for correcting astrology outlines a framework for statistical validation, recommending correlation testing between planets and personality assessment items, and the use of statistical testing methods including t-tests and ANOVA to evaluate model performance. We calculate and interpret basic descriptive statistics. We select appropriate inferential tests for research questions. We understand type 1 and type 2 errors. We calculate and interpret effect sizes. Our research design and methodology. This module will address the unique challenges of designing astrological research, such as blinding and control procedures. Astrological research is particularly susceptible to experimenter and participant bias. Usually, students learn to design double-blind protocols, use control groups, and implement randomization procedures. Our sample size determination. Power analysis for astrological studies requires consideration of small effect sizes. The proposition recommends 10,000, collecting at least 10,000 complete horoscopes and questionnaire responses. Though students must understand that required sample sizes vary with research questions. So how does one operationalize Jupiter in the 10th house? How does one operationalize Mars square Saturn? We need to address the challenges of converting astrological concepts into measurable variables. We design double-blind astrological studies. We conduct power analysis for proposed research. We develop valid operational definitions for astrological variables. We identify and control for confounding variables. Let's look at our database construction, and management. Astrological research requires large, well-structured databases. We need to go over data collection protocols, standardized procedures for collecting birth data such as the date, the time, and location, and verifying accuracy. We as students learn to assess data quality and handle missing information. This is also helpful for, practitioners in general. Database architecture, design of relational databases linking birth data, calculated planetary positions, and outcome variables. Implementation of quality control procedures. Computational astronomy, use of JPL ephemerides and Swiss ephemeris for accurate chart calculation. Students learn to write or use code for batch chart calculation. Proposition emphasizes establishing a database correlating celestial positions with personality traits and major life events. Design and implement astrological research databases. Use ephemeris libraries for batch chart calculation. Implement data quality control procedures. Document database structures for replicability. Machine learning applications in astrological research. So recent research has applied machine learning techniques to astrological questions. A 2024 study developed an automated prediction application using the horoscope with deep learning-based strategies using 3 classification methods: J48, Logistic R, and Cursed Gaussian Naive Bayes, to analyze horoscopes of 100 individuals across 3 professions. Another study employed neural network, NN, import vector machine, IVM, random forest, RF, and iterative boosting to predict profession and marriage outcomes. You go over classification algorithms, decision trees, random forests, support vector machines, neural networks, and students learn when each method is appropriate and how to interpret results. Cross-validation techniques, use of k-fold cross-validation to assess model performance without overfitting. Students have employed 10, 12, and 14-fold cross-validation. Performance metrics, calculation and interpretation of correctly classified instances, CCI, incorrectly classified instances, ICI, mean absolute error, MAE, root mean squared error, RMSE, and relative absolute error, RAE. Also true positive rates, false positive rates, precision, and F-measure statistics. The proposition suggests building machine learning models such as random forest and XGBoost to verify the accuracy of astrological judgments. The goal is implement and compare multiple classification algorithms, apply cross-validation techniques appropriately, interpret machine learning performance metrics, and identify limitations and potential biases in ML approaches. Let's go over our meta-analysis and systematic review. With over a century of astrological research, meta-analysis offers tools for synthesizing findings across studies. This module essentially would cover more in detail the following topics: literature search strategy, systematic identification of relevant studies, including gray literature and non-English publications; effect size extraction, methods for converting diverse study results to common metrics; publication bias assessment, techniques for detecting and adjusting for selected publication; heterogeneity analysis, assessing whether study results are consistent or vary systematically. The extensive review and understanding astrology provides a model summarizing the multitude of the 20th and 21st century studies of astrological predictions, arranged chronologically, and noting that the number of dependent measures investigated and the creativity of much of this research is impressive. Our goal is to conduct systematic literature searches, calculate and interpret meta-analytic effect sizes, assess and adjust for publication bias, synthesize findings across heterogeneous studies. Qualitative and historical research methods. So archival research and textual analysis. The history of astrology is preserved in manuscripts, rare books, and archival collections. Essentially, my goal in this channel, it's in my life in general. I want to train students of astrology and learn more about paleography, reading historical handwriting, including medieval and Renaissance scripts; codicology, understanding manuscript structure, dating and provenance; textual criticism, establishing reliable text from multiple manuscript witnesses; translation methodology, rendering technical astrological texts accurately while preserving meaning. So the case of Abraham ibn Ezra's Liber Abraham de Nativitibus illustrates the complexity, as recent research demonstrates. The text exists in 4 distinct recensions, one of which was the work of Henry Bate of Mechelen, who translated a collection of Ibn Ezra's astrological writings into Latin. Untangling such textual histories requires sophisticated methods. Our goal is to read and date historical manuscripts, establish critical editions of the astrological texts, translate technical astrological Latin, Arabic, Hebrew, trace textual transmission across languages and centuries. Now I'm diving into archaeoastronomy, and celestial alignments. So archaeoastronomy examines how ancient cultures oriented structures and organized space in relation to celestial phenomena. The University of Wales Trinity St. David's MA in Cultural Astronomy and Astrology includes the study of archaeoastronomy, how celestial alignments are reflected in architecture, both ancient and modern. We need to go over methodological foundations, distinguishing intentional alignments from random orientation, statistical approaches to assessing alignment significance. Okay? Our field methods: measuring site orientations, determining horizon heights, calculating declinations. Case studies: Egyptian temple alignments, megalithic monuments, medieval church orientations, Renaissance city planning. Cultural interpretation: understanding the symbolic and functional roles of celestial alignments in their cultural contexts. And what we learn is measuring and analyzing celestial alignments, assessing statistical significance of orientation patterns, interpreting alignments within cultural contexts, and integrating archaeoastronomical data with textual evidence. So, I have a few other things I want to go over, and then we'll get into some other thing. It is going to be, of course, regarding astrology, but okay. So let's look over ethnography of contemporary astrological practice, because astrology is not merely a historical phenomenon, but a living practice. And this module trains students in ethnographic methods for studying contemporary astrologers and their clients. So participant observation, methods for observing astrological practice while maintaining analytical distance, interview techniques, conducting semi-structured interviews with practitioners and clients, discourse analysis, analyzing how astrologers construct authority, interpret charts, and negotiate meaning with clients, ethical considerations, navigating the responsibilities of researching living communities. And what we learn is designing and conducting ethnographic research, analyzing astrological discourse, navigating ethical issues in community-based research, and integrating ethnographic findings with other forms of evidence. Alright. Going over psychology and the study of astrological belief, and then I'm going to go over the dissertation research and advanced topics. So really quick, psychology and the study of astrological belief. Understanding why people believe in astrology is as important as evaluating its empirical claims. This module examines psychological research on cognitive biases, confirmation bias, Barnum effect, subjective validation, and their roles in maintaining astrological belief. Personality correlates, research on whether belief in astrology correlates with personality variables such as openness, need for structure, or locus of control. Social functions, the role of astrology in identity construction, community formation, and meaning making. The Skeptical Inquirer Review notes that Chapter 9 of Understanding Astrology concerns artifacts that lead to belief in astrology, such as reliance on personal experience, confirmation bias, seeing patterns in random noise, and representativeness heuristic, among others. Our learning objectives: we identify cognitive biases relevant to astrological belief. We design studies to assess psychological correlates of belief. We understand the social functions of astrological practice. We integrate psychological findings with other research approaches. All right. Now, dissertation research and advanced topics. Research ethics and integrity. So before undertaking dissertation research, students of astrology, practitioners of astrology, astrology historians, whatever you want to say, we must complete rigorous training in research ethics, such as informed consent, ensuring participants understand the nature and purpose of astrological research, data privacy, protecting sensitive birth data and personal information, conflicts of interest, disclosing personal beliefs or financial interests that might affect research, and responsible publication, avoiding sensationalism, accurately representing uncertainty and correcting errors. Alright, now what I want to do is talk about astrophysics, astronomy, and astrology, and just how fucking cool it is to intertwine these things, because I have a shit ton of Pisces placements. In fact, if you see my other videos, you know I have a Pisces 11th house stellium. I have a shit ton of planets in Pisces in my Western chart, but in my Vedic chart, it's all in Aquarius. I love this shit. I will eat it up. Talking about astrology, talking about aliens, talking about dimensions, talking about astronomy, talking about astrophysics, talking about the eternal now is what I like to call it. And the transits make so much sense. Pluto in Aquarius. I became a transgender during Pluto in Aquarius, and I have Pluto in Sagittarius. Gen Z and Gen Alpha are experiencing the most of these fucking historical planetary transits. Not just now, but in the foreseeable future, which I've talked about in other videos. So subscribe, like, comment. Keep me in the algorithm. I mean, when we're talking about defending astrology, but all I see on here on YouTube is, and no offense, I actually had Archie Astrology, Talking Astrology with Archie, replied to my comment. I said he inspired me. And he's a good astrologer. It's just how many young people of color are on YouTube talking about astrology? How many? I don't have anybody to look up to. Nobody in my family would understand this. I don't have any friends. So that's why I'm on here. So we're going to go over astrophysical reality and astrological consciousness as a unified field of universal intelligence. And what this is written as is a midterm conceptual essay submitted for advanced astrological studies, with the theme being the intersection of empirical science and eternal wisdom. Essentially, this essay proposes a radical synthesis that astrophysics, astronomy, and advanced astrology are not separate disciplines, but three languages describing the same universal phenomenon. The embedded consciousness of the cosmos expressing itself through dimensional reality by examining the mathematical structures of astrophysics, the observational frameworks of astronomy, and the symbolic architectures of astrology, we reveal a unified field theory of cosmic intelligence. Within this particular human puppet's dimension, the third-dimensional space-time reality we inhabit, these disciplines serve as different access points to a single eternal truth, that the universe is a conscious, self-organizing system, and humanity is both its creation and its creator. Getting into the fragmentation of cosmic knowledge. Modern academia has carved the study of the cosmos into isolated silos. Astrophysics concerns itself with the how, the nuclear fusion within stars, the curvature of spacetime, the quantum fluctuations of the early universe. Astronomy catalogs the what, the positions, movements, and characteristics of celestial bodies. Astrology, exiled to the margins of intellectual respectability, concerns itself with the why. The meaningful relationships between cosmic events and human experience. This fragmentation is an illusion born of limited dimensional perception. In this essay, I argue that these three disciplines form a trinity of understanding, each necessary for the others to be complete. Astrophysics provides the mechanism, astronomy provides the map, and astrology provides the meaning. Together, they describe a universe that is not a dead machine but a living organism of consciousness, evolving across dimensions and expressing itself through the particular constraints of this reality we temporarily inhabit. Let's talk about the astrophysical foundation, mathematics as the language of cosmic mind. Astrophysics has perhaps unwittingly provided the strongest evidence for a conscious, interconnected universe. Let's consider the following. The fine-tuning problem, the fundamental constants of physics, the gravitational constant, the cosmological constant, the mass of the proton, the strength of the electromagnetic force are all precisely calibrated to allow for the existence of life. If any of these values vary by even 1 part in a billion, the universe would be a sterile, lifeless void. The astrophysical response ranges from the anthropic principle, we observe it because we exist, to the multiverse hypothesis, there are infinite universes with different constants, and we happen to be in one that works. But there is a third possibility, one that bridges to astrology. The universe is not accidentally fine-tuned, but intentionally self-organizing. The constants are not random numbers, but expressions of cosmic consciousness calibrating itself for experience. This is not mysticism, it is a logical extension of complexity theory and emergent phenomena. Consciousness may be a fundamental property of the universe like mass or charge, and the constants are set to allow that property to manifest. Non-locality and quantum entanglement. And really quick, don't mind me, I'm just going to start drinking. Hazy Hearted IPA. It's a beer, 7.8%. Fuck it, we're getting drunk. And I like this beer because, as you can see, there's a fish on there. And I have a stick and poke of my fish tattoo. It's supposed to be 2 because my Pisces 11th house stellium. Hazy Hearted IPA. Shout out to Bells. Alright. So, quantum physics has demonstrated that particles once connected remain connected across any distance, instantaneously influencing each other in ways that defy classical physics. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. This non-locality suggests that separation is an illusion, that at a fundamental level the universe is a single unified field. Astrology has always operated on this principle. The aspect between a transiting Saturn in one part of the sky and a natal Venus in another is not a causal relationship, but a meaningful correlation within a unified field. Quantum entanglement provides the physical mechanism that astrophysics has long sought. The cosmos is a web of instantaneous connection, and celestial bodies are nodes in that web. Dark matter and dark energy, the unseen 95%. Astrophysics currently acknowledges that 95% of the universe is composed of dark matter and dark energy, substances we cannot see, cannot detect directly, and cannot explain. We know that they exist only through their gravitational effects. This is a stunning admission from empirical science. The vast majority of reality is invisible. For astrology, this is not surprising. The influences of planets are not limited to their physical mass or light output. A planet's astrological significance operates in this dark realm, the realm of subtle influence, of resonance, of meaning that cannot be measured by instruments calibrated only for the 5% of reality we call matter. Excuse me. That is the thing about beer. Alcohol in general, it just makes you pee all night and burp a lot. But hey, it also makes you chill out sometimes. Depends on the person. The astronomical bridge, the heavens as a living calendar. Astronomy provides the crucial bridge between the mechanistic and the meaningful. It is the practice of watching, of recording, of mapping the movements of celestial bodies over time. This practice is the foundation of both astrophysics and astrology. precession of the equinoxes, astronomy reveals that the Earth's axis wobbles slowly over 26,000 years, causing the backdrop of stars against which the sun rises on the equinox to shift. This discovery, known as the precession of the equinoxes, is purely astronomical, but its implications are profoundly astrological. The age of Aquarius is not a metaphor, it is an astronomical fact describing the sun's position on the vernal equinox relative to the fixed stars. Humanity is moving from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius, and the shift in collective consciousness that astrology predicts is anchored in a measurable astronomical reality. The heavens are a clock, and the ages are its hours. The solar system as an organism. Astronomy has mapped the intricate dance of planets, moons, asteroids, and comets. We now understand that the solar system is not a random collection of objects, but a dynamically balanced system with resonances, harmonics, and gravitational relationships that have persisted for billions of years. From an astrological perspective, this is the anatomy of a cosmic organism. Each planet has its role, its orbit, its relationship to the whole. Jupiter's massive gravitational field protects Earth from cometary impacts. Saturn's rings and orbital position create the boundary of the inner solar system. These are not coincidences, but functions within a living system. The planets are organs in a body, and their movements are the pulse of that body. Exoplanets and the expansion of the astrological map. Astronomy has now confirmed thousands of planets orbiting other stars. This discovery presents both a challenge and an expansion for astrology. If astrology is a universal science, it must apply not only to our solar system, but to all systems. This suggests a profound truth. Astrology is not about the planets themselves, but about the principles they represent. Mars is not the source of aggression, but the symbol of a universal principle, initiative, force, differentiation, that manifests in any star system through whatever body occupies the Martian role. The discovery of exoplanets invites astrology to move from a geocentric or heliocentric model to a universal model, where the archetypes are eternal and their celestial embodiments are local expressions. Astrology, when practiced at its highest level, is not fortune-telling, but a sophisticated symbolic language for reading the state of cosmic consciousness at any given moment and location. The holographic principle in theoretical physics suggests that all the information contained in a volume of space can be encoded on its boundary. Applied to astrology, this means that the entire state of the cosmos at any moment is encoded in the celestial configuration, visible from any point. A birth chart is not a snapshot of the sky at the moment of birth. It is a holographic encoding of the entire universe's state, focused through the lens of that specific location. The planets are not causing events, they are displaying the cosmic information that the newborn will embody. This is why astrology works across scales. A chart can describe an individual, an event, a nation, or an epoch. The information is the same, only the lens changes. So this essay's prompt acknowledges that we inhabit a particular human puppets dimension, implying the existence of others. Advanced astrology incorporates this understanding. So in the third dimension, we experience time as linear and space as separate. Astrology as practice in this dimension reflects these constraints. We chart positions over time, we calculate aspects across space, but the underlying reality is multidimensional. The fourth dimension, being time, astrology has always been four-dimensional, incorporating time as a variable equal to space. A chart is a space-time event frozen in mathematical form. The fifth dimension, probability. Advanced astrology acknowledges that a chart represents not a fixed fate, but a probability field. The planets show tendencies, potentials, and themes, not predetermined events. This is the quantum layer of astrology. The sixth dimension, collective consciousness. Beyond individual charts lies the realm of collective astrology, mundane astrology, geopolitical astrology, the astrology of human evolution. Here the planetary configurations reflect not personal psychology, but the state of the human species as a single organism. And Dimension 7, shout out that Nirvana song. And beyond. Eternal archetypes at the highest dimensional levels, astrology touches the realm of pure archetype, the platonic forms that underlie all manifestation. The planets are not the archetypes, but they're representatives in our dimension. Alright. Let's talk about the collective consciousness hypothesis. If astrology is a universal eternal science, it must operate through a mechanism accessible to all conscious beings. The most compelling hypothesis is collective consciousness, the idea that all minds are connected at a deep level, forming a single field of awareness that evolves over time. In this model, planetary configurations are not causing thoughts or events, but are synchronizing with the state of the collective consciousness. When Saturn turns at a particular point, it does not create limitation, it reflects a cosmic moment when the collective consciousness is focused on themes of structure, boundary, and karma. Individuals experience this according to their personal resonance with that theme. The planets become, in this view, a kind of cosmic clock for consciousness, marking the rhythms of humanity's collective evolution. The precession of the equinoxes marks the great ages of human development. The cycles of the outer planets mark generational shifts. The transits of the inner planets mark personal and social rhythms. Everything is synchronized because everything is part of the same conscious universe. Alright, almost finished here. Not really, because I have a few more things to go over. So, the triunity of cosmic understanding. This is how we synthesize, in my opinion. We synthesize our three disciplines into a unified framework. Discipline, domain, question, contribution to the unified understanding. Astrophysics mechanism, how does it work, provides the physical laws, mathematical structures, and empirical observations that describe the cosmos as a system. Astronomy observation, what is there, provides the map, the positions, the movements, the catalog of celestial bodies that form the vocabulary of cosmic language. And astrology, meaning why does it matter, provides the interpretation, the symbolic framework, the translation of cosmic patterns into human experience. Together they form a complete understanding. Astrophysics without astrology is a body without a soul. A mechanism that operates but has no purpose, no meaning, no connection to the consciousness that observes it. Astrology without astrophysics is a soul without a body, meaning floating free of mechanism, vulnerable to superstition and disconnection from physical reality. Astronomy without either is a map without a territory or a purpose, a catalog of positions that explains neither how they move nor why they matter. The unified field of cosmic understanding requires all three. The universe is simultaneously a physical system, astrophysics, a structured arrangement, astronomy, and a meaningful expression of consciousness, astrology. To study only one is to see only one face of a many-faceted jewel. Let's talk about the human puppets dimension some more. Why we're even here as human beings, with blood and guts and bones and a brain and heart and a name. The phrase human puppets dimension suggests a profound philosophical position. That we are not the ultimate controllers of our reality, but are participants in a larger drama. Soap opera. Guided by forces beyond our individual comprehension. This is not nihilism, but humility. In this dimension, we experience separation, the illusion of being isolated individuals, all the time, every day for me. Rahu and Aries over here. Time, the illusion of linear progression, and matter, the illusion of solid, separate objects. These are the constraints of third-dimensional reality. They are not the whole truth, but they are the rules of the game we have chosen to play. Astrology in this context is the user's manual for the game. It does not free us from the constraints of this dimension, but it helps us understand them. It shows us the patterns, the cycles, the opportunities, and challenges that arise from the cosmic configuration we inhabit in this incarnation. It reminds us that we are not alone, we are not separate, we are not meaningless, that our individual dramas are part of a cosmic drama, and that the same forces that move the planets move through us. So, now I would like to give you my conclusion. The eternal science of now, right now. Advanced astrology, understood in its full context alongside astrophysics and astronomy, emerges not as a superstition but as a universal eternal science, a discipline as old as humanity and as new as the latest discovery of an exoplanet or a quantum entanglement experiment. It is eternal because it addresses what is timeless, the relationship between the cosmos and consciousness, the patterns of existence that repeat across scales and dimensions, the fundamental truth that we live in a universe that knows itself through us. It's universal because it applies wherever conscious beings exist. Any intelligence anywhere in the multiverse would eventually notice that celestial configurations correlate with experience, that cycles repeat, that meaning is embedded in the structure of reality. They would develop their own astrology based on their own sky, but recognizing the same eternal archetypes we recognize. And it is a science because it is based on observation, pattern recognition, and testable hypothesis. The difference between astrology and the hard sciences is not one of rigor, but of subject matter. Physics studies matter. Astrology studies meaning. Astrology studies meaning, Both are real. Both are necessary. Both are aspects of the one reality we all share. We are puppets. Yes, we're human puppets. But puppets who can read the script, if we choose to. Who can understand the play, if we choose to. Who can appreciate the beauty of the cosmic drama, even as we dance within it, if we choose to. You choose what you want in your life. The planets move. The ages turn, and consciousness evolves. This is the eternal science. This is the cosmic mirror. This is the truth of who we as fundamentally human beings are. All right. Now that we got that finished, I would like to give... I kind of want to do something a little bit more fun. So, this is the Celestial Stand-Up, an R-rated astrological comedy set. Because I've never in my life seen a comedy set regarding astrology. Alright. Cosmic comedian in chief here, Piscean Buddha. 7.5% beer. Let's get it. Alright, let's say everyone's clapping for me now. Welcome. Alright. Good evening, you beautiful, beautifully neurotic collection of celestial narcissists. Look at this room. I walk in and I see Virgos organizing the chairs, Leos wondering why I'm getting more attention than them, Scorpios figuring out exactly which one of you I'm going to sleep with tonight, and Pisces already crying because they can feel my stage fright. Welcome to the Advanced Astrology Institute's annual gathering, or as my Gemini mother calls it, the place where adults pay money to blame their shit on Saturn. I say that with love. I'm one of you. I've been reading charts for 20 years. I've seen things. I've done things. Things that will make your Mercury retrograde look like a walk in the park. You know what nobody tells you about being a professional astrologer? The imposter syndrome is astronomical. Sorry, I'll be here all week, try to veil. But seriously, every morning I wake up, look in the mirror, and think today's the day they figure out I'm just making shit up. And then I remember we're all just making shit up. The difference is I have better props. Look at this chart. Visualize the chart. It's beautiful, isn't it? All those symbols, those lines, those aspects. It looks so scientific, so legitimate, like something a person with actual authority would use. And then I have to explain to a client that, yes, their failed marriage is because Mercury was doing a little dance with Saturn while Venus was taking a nap. Can we talk about clients for a minute? Because we're all friends here. And this is a safe space. And I need to vent. And I want to. And I can. And I will. There are 3 types of people who come to astrologers. Type 1 is the spiritual seeker. They come in with their crystals, their sage, their higher vibrational frequency, greater than thou. They want to know their soul purpose, their karmic path, their past lives. I look at their chart and see they have Mars in Aries square Uranus, and I think, your sole purpose is to stop texting your ex at 3 in the fucking morning. Type 2, the skeptic. They come in with a friend, arms crossed. I don't believe in this stuff. They're doing it as a joke, a dare. By the end of the session, they're crying because I mentioned their grandmother's name wasn't in the chart. She passed in 1998. How did you know? Ma'am, I didn't. You told me. You've been talking for 45 minutes. Type 3. The crisis client. Oh, the crisis client. They come in because their life is falling apart and they need answers right now. I look at their chart. Saturn return. Every time. It's always the Saturn return. Your life is falling apart because you're 29 years old and the universe is forcing you to grow the fuck up. Welcome to adulthood. There's no refunds. On Saturn. Let's talk about Saturn. Because we're all adults here. I'm 20. I turned 21 in less than a week. I can drink. Don't worry about me. We can admit the truth. Saturn is an asshole. Saturn is an asshole. I said what I said because Saturn is the cosmic dad who comes home from work, sees you've been watching TV all day, and beats you with a belt made of responsibility. That is Saturn. Saturn doesn't give a fuck about how you feel, when you feel it. Oh, you want to cry? Saturn doesn't care about your trauma. Saturn looks at your wounded inner child, the black moon Lilith you have, and says, get a fucking job. My dad has Saturn in Aries. You think he was there for me growing up? No, he was a piece of shit. He did some things for me, but most of the time, very, very filled with rage. I had a client with Saturn in the 7th house. She came to me because she couldn't find love. I looked at her birth chart, and you know what I said? I said, hey, honey, Saturn isn't preventing love. Saturn is preventing you from dating another emotionally unavailable narcissist. She married a nice accountant 3 years later, sent me a thank you card. Saturn's an asshole, but he's our asshole. Hemorrhoids and all. Let's talk about Pluto. Oh, Pluto, the little planet that couldn't. You know what they did to Pluto? Do you know what they did to Pluto? They demoted Pluto. Can you imagine? Imagine going to work tomorrow and finding out you're not a planet anymore. You're just a dwarf planet. A celestial little person. Sorry, Pluto. You're too small. You haven't cleared your neighborhood. You're just floating out there with a bunch of other rocks pretending to matter. And yet, Pluto still wrecks people's lives. You can take away its planetary status, but you can't take away its power to destroy everything you thought you knew. Pluto transits are like that ex who shows up at your door at 2 a.m., drunk, crying, and somehow you end up having sex, even though you swore you wouldn't. Pluto doesn't give a fuck about your boundaries. Pluto is the boundary. The boundary between who you were and who you're about to become, and it hurts. Let's talk about Uranus. Uranus. How does Cam White say it? Uranus. Uranus, or Uranus, which is very funny. We're all adults here. We can say it without giggling, right? Buttholes and whatever. See? Can't do it. It's impossible. Wow. You're laughing. You try to be serious about astrology, and then you have to say, well, your Uranus is in my 5th house. Ma'am, that's not what that means. Please put your clothes back on. Uranus is the planet of sudden change, rebellion, and unexpected events. It's the cosmic prankster. It's the moment When you're finally comfortable and the universe is like, LOL, let's blow this shit up. Fuck. Uranus transits are like waking up married in Vegas with a hangover and a tattoo you don't remember getting. Neptune. The planet of illusion, spirituality, and absolute fucking confusion. Neptune is the cosmic bartender. It just keeps pouring drinks and saying it's fine. Everything's fine. You're fine. The voices are fine. I had a client with Neptune conjunct her ascendant. She came to me because she couldn't tell what was real anymore. She was dating a guy who claimed to be an ascended master from Atlantis. I looked at her natal chart and I said to her, honey, my son is ascended master. That's a dude who works at Whole Foods and thinks he's special because he did ayahuasca once. Neptune dissolves boundaries. That's beautiful for artists, of course. You know, creatives, musicians, whatever, painters. For everyone else, it's like trying to read a book underwater, like Mercury in Pisces, which is retrograde right now in my natal chart, going in my fucking natal 11th house. Anyways, on Mercury retrograde. Okay, Mercury retrograde. Let's address the elephant in the room because Mercury has stationed. It's in its pre-shadow, and it's going retrograde on my birthday. And as soon as it goes retrograde, it's not going to stop until next month, and then it'll be in its post-shadow. So while Mercury's in shadow, I've already noticed it's slowing down and it's getting crazier, but let's have fun with it. Mercury retrograde doesn't have to always be shit. Can't always like, oh, this one's going to be dog shit. There's no way to get through it. Well, what's the worst that could happen is what I'm asking. What's the worst thing that could happen in Mercury retrograde? So, I know, Mercury retrograde. Every time Mercury goes retrograde, my phone blows up. My computer crashed. My ex texted me. I lost my keys. Mercury is retrograde in your third house, which rules communication and short trips. Have you checked your pockets? Here's the truth about Mercury retrograde. It's not that big of a deal. Mercury goes retrograde 3 fucking times a year. 3 times a year. You've been dealing with this since you were born. Mercury takes a nap and everything gets a little weird. But we've turned it into a cosmic scapegoat for every minor inconvenience. Mercury's retrograde. Mercury's retrograde. Your boyfriend cheated on you. Your girlfriend cheated on you. Mercury's retrograde. You got fired. Mercury's retrograde. You burned your toast. Mercury's retrograde. No, Becky, you burned your toast because you weren't paying attention. That's the goal. Take responsibility. Mercury retrograde is just here to teach you. Just like every other retrograde. Venus retrograde. It's only here to teach you a karmic soul lesson as a human being. Let's talk about the astrological houses, because this is where things get really fucking personal. And I wish I had a microphone, but I don't, because I'd be talking right into it. But you guys can hear me just fine. I know you can. So the first house is how you present yourself to the world. The mask you wear, the 12th house, is what's underneath that mask. The stuff you don't want anyone to see. I have a 12th house stellium, which means I'm charming on the outside and an absolute dumpster fire on the inside. So the second house is money and values. The 8th house is other people's money and death and sex. The second house says, I earned this. The 8th house says, I inherited this, and also, I'm horny. The 5th house is creativity, romance, and children. The 5th house is where you have fun, make art, and accidentally create tiny humans. The 7th house is marriage and committed partnerships. The 7th house is where you take that tiny human you made in the 5th house and try to raise it with someone without killing each other. The 4th house is home and family and mother. The 10th house is career and public image and father. Your 4th house is where you learn to be a person. Your 10th house is where you pretend to be one. Can we talk about the moon for a second? Yeah, we can, because it's my show and nobody's fucking watching this. Because the moon doesn't get enough respect. Everyone's obsessed with their sun sign, right? I'm a Leo. I'm a Scorpio. I'm blah 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 blah. But the moon sign, the moon is where you live. Did you know that? The moon is where you live. My moon is in Libra. What about you? Do you know what house it's in? Do you know the ruler, Venus and the moon, in the 6th house? What could go wrong in my life? You have any idea? As an astrology student, let me know in the comments below. Follow along with me. Because the moon is your emotional body, your mother, your unconscious reactions, what you need to feel safe. Your sun is the actor on stage, your father. Your moon is what happens backstage when no one's watching. So I had a client with moon in Capricorn. You know what that means? It means she needs to feel useful to feel loved. She needs to be needed. She will work herself into the ground for people who don't even notice. And I actually have Mars exalted in Capricorn, so I feel this. Working every day, all day on YouTube for, only a few people to watch me. Fucking sucks. But I'm grateful for the people that I do have watching me. So I looked at her and I said, honey, honey, your moon is in Capricorn. You need to hear that you're doing a good job. Have you ever told yourself that? That's the thing with Capricorn. Do you tell yourself you're doing a good job, or do you have everybody else tell you that? And then that's what makes you feel good. You need to tell yourself that. I'm doing a good job. I'm trying the best I fucking can. I'm staying up all night to record videos. I'm up all day recording videos. I dedicate my life to astrology. That's my reality. So she started crying right there in my office. The moon is hungry. Guys, the moon is hungry, and most of us are starving it. Dead ass. Most of us are starving it. Let's talk about the angles. So the ascendant, the rising sign. Most of you guys know I have a Taurus rising, which is why I come off as more masculine, in my opinion. Taurus is a very masculine version of Venus, and Libra is the more feminine of Venus. But Taurus can be very feminine as well. So the ascendant, the midheaven, the IC, Moon Coeli, the descendant, these are the 4 pillars of your chart, the cross you're nailed to for your entire life. Your ascendant is how the world sees you. Your descendant is what you're looking for in others. Your IC is where you come from. Your midheaven is where you're going. And here's the cosmic joke. You spend your whole life trying to reconcile them. Your ascendant, for example, is in Aries. So you come across as aggressive. But your descendant is in Libra. So you're attracted to, peaceful people. You're a warrior who keeps dating diplomats, wondering why they can't just fight. Your IC, Moon Coeli, is in Cancer, so you come from a nurturing home. But let's say your midheaven's in Capricorn, so your career demands you to be cold and ambitious, and you spend your whole life trying to be soft at home and hard at work, and by the time you're 50 years old, you don't know which one is real. Welcome to astrology. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Welcome to being a human being. It's a fucking mess. It's a shit show. We're all a mess and a part of the shit show. Let's talk about synastry and relationships. Oh, synastry. The art of comparing 2 charts to see if you're going to kill each other or fuck each other. Sometimes both. I do couples readings. I should charge double, triple. I should charge hazard pay. Because here's what happens. 2 people come in, holding hands, all lovey-dovey. We're so in love. We're soulmates. We're meant to be. I look at their charts. Her Mars is conjunct his Pluto. His Saturn is square her moon. Her Uranus is opposite his Venus. And I think you guys are not soulmates. You're a trauma bond with good marketing. But I can't say that. I have to be diplomatic. So I say, well, there's definitely intensity here. You'll never be bored, but boredom is not in your future. Neither is peace or sleep or emotional stability. But you'll never be bored. You'll never be bored. That's great. We hate being bored. Great. See you at the divorce. See you at the divorce. Let's talk about the outer planets and generations. Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, the outer planets, the generational planets. I'm fairly drunk now. The planets that make your parents not understand you. Alright? Let's take that off. Fuck it. My hairline's still a little bit fucked up because of the steroids I was on, but you know what? I don't care. Judge me. Do whatever you want to do. I'm still who I am, regardless. I don't give a fuck. So, let's talk about Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, the outer planets, the generational planets, the planets that make your parents not understand you. So boomers, the fucking motherfuckers that, had the ladder and drug it up behind them. They didn't give it to Gen Z or Gen Alpha. Boomers have Pluto and Leo. Makes sense, right? They're dramatic. They're entitled. They think they're special. They invented rock and roll, and they got mad when we didn't want to listen to it anymore. Some of it's still good. Not a lot of it. Generation X has Pluto and Virgo. They're skeptical. They're analytical. They're convinced everything is bullshit. They're not wrong, but they're also not fun at parties. Millennials have Pluto and Scorpio, dramatic pause. Oh, yeah, they're fucked up. They're intense. They're secretive. Obsessed with transformation and death and sex. The generation that made true crime their comfort genre. I'm pretty wasted. So, let's talk about Gen Z, me and everybody else that's in Gen Z. We have Pluto in Sagittarius. We are idealistic. We're global. We think we can save the world through, TikTok activism. Give us 20 years, Pluto in Capricorn will cure that. Let's talk about being an astrologer. Here's the thing nobody tells you about being an astrologer. Alright, you carry people's secrets. I know things about my clients that their therapists don't know. Their spouses don't know. Their mothers don't know. I know who's cheating. I know who's thinking about leaving. I know who's secretly terrified they're not good enough. I know who's been lying to themselves for 40 years. And I have to hold all of that with compassion. With no judgment. With the understanding that their chart isn't their fault. It's their assignment. Their natal promise. Chart doesn't lie. That's the terrifying part. The chart tells the truth every time. You can hide from yourself for decades. You can build walls, tell stories, rewrite history, but the chart remembers. The chart knows. And when you sit in front of someone who's ready to hear the truth, it's the most sacred thing I've ever experienced. And sometimes I have to tell someone their Venus is in Virgo and they're never going to be satisfied with love because they're looking for perfection in an imperfect world. And they look at me like I just punched their grandmother. So on spiritual bypassing, can we talk about spiritual bypassing? Because astrologers are the worst for this. Client comes in, for example, says, I'm so angry all the time. Why is this happening? And the astrologer, puts on a woo-woo voice like, well, your Mars is in Aries. Your Mars is in Aries, so you have a lot of warrior energy. Have you tried meditating? Maybe some crystals, Reiki? No, shut up. Mars in Aries doesn't need crystals. Mars in Aries needs a punching bag and permission to scream. Stop trying to fucking spiritualize everything. Sometimes Saturn in the 6th house means your job sucks. And you should fucking quit it. Start working for yourself. Saturn in the 6th house. Not karmic lessons in service. Your job sucks. Quit. Sometimes Pluto transiting your 7th house means your marriage is over. Not transformational partnership alchemy. It is over. Leave. Astrology is not an excuse to avoid reality. Astrology is a tool for facing reality. The truth is already in the chart. You don't have to fucking pretty it up on predictions. So predictions. Here's the thing about predictions. They're not real. None of us know what's going to happen. We can assume with the transits we see, but none of us actually know details. I said it, none of us know. We have transits, we have progressions, we have solar returns, we have patterns, cycles, probabilities, but we don't have certainty. Anyone who tells you they know exactly what's going to happen is either lying or delusional, or both, usually both. Excuse me. But here's what we can do as astrologers. We can see themes. We can see timing. We can see when the universe is going to push you in a certain direction. Saturn approaching your ascendant, something's about to end, something's about to begin, something is about to hurt. But what? I don't know. Maybe you'll lose your job. Maybe you'll lose your mind. Maybe you'll decide to leave your husband. Maybe your husband will leave you. The transit is the weather. Your life is the terrain. I can tell you if it's going to rain down. I can't tell you where the flood is going to happen. Let's talk about astrologers and egos. The thing with people is, we all slip on our egos. And if you don't believe that, there's something wrong with you. We need to talk about astrologers' egos. Because we have them, of course, like everybody else does. There's always that astrologer that in specific who thinks they're special because they have a 12th house sun. I'm so mystical, I'm so intuitive, I'm so connected to the divine. And I mean, I've thought like that before, except the thing is with me, I can understand that we are all a collective consciousness. We are all here together. Now, what most people would say is, oh, you're not connected to the divine, you're avoidant, your 12th house sun means you can't function in reality, so you've made spirituality your personality, get a job. And the astrologers with heavy Scorpio placements who think they're mysterious and intense, I see things you wouldn't understand. You're not mysterious, you're emotionally constipated, and everyone understands, you're just not saying anything. And don't get me started on the Leos, the Leo rising specifically, who make every consultation about them. My dad has a Leo ascendant, Aries sun, Leo ascendant. Oh, let me see your chart. Oh, interesting. You know, my Venus is in Leo too. We're so alike. Anyway, back to you. Wait, did I mention my Venus is in Leo? Did I mention that? That my Venus is in Leo? Let's talk about the future of astrology. We're at an interesting moment. Astrology is more popular than it's been in centuries. Everyone has an app. Everyone knows their big three. Astrology memes are everywhere. And I'm not sure how I feel about it. Because on one hand, more people are learning about themselves. More people are finding language for their experiences. More people are realizing they're not crazy. They're just having a Saturn return or experiencing some other, transit in their natal chart. On the other hand, we've turned a 2,000-year-old wisdom tradition into clickbait. Virgos are messy. Leos are dramatic. Scorpios are scary. That's not astrology. That's a horoscope. That's the McDonald's of astrology. Fast, cheap, and nutritionally empty. Real astrology is work. It takes years to learn. It takes decades to master. It takes a lifetime to integrate. But that's not what sells. What sells is, Mercury retrograde is coming. You guys fucking better panic. Here's why we do this. Why do we do it as astrologers? Why do we even become astrologers? Why do we want to learn astrology? Why do we want to teach astrology? Why do we want to, do consultations? Why do we want to do this with our lives? Why do we spend our lives studying these symbols, these patterns, these cycles? Why do we sit with strangers and tell them the truth about themselves? Why do we carry their secrets, their pain, their hope? Why do we do it? Because we've seen it work. Because we've seen the look on someone's face when they finally understand themselves, when they finally realize they're not broken, they're just configured. Because we watched people transform. We watched Saturn returns end and people emerge stronger. We watched Pluto transits destroy everything and then watch people rebuild something better, because we know, as astrologers, we know that there's order in the chaos, that the universe isn't random, that our lives have meaning, even when we can't see it. And because sometimes when you're sitting with someone at 2 a.m, their life falling apart around them, and you look at their chart and see Jupiter exactly trying their sun, and you get to say, hey, this is going to end. And when it does, something beautiful is going to begin for you. And it's also because it's a great way to meet people at parties. Look, here's the truth. We're all just trying to figure it out. The astrologers, the clients, the skeptics, the believers, we're all just walking around under the same fucking sky, looking at the same fucking stars, wondering what the fuck it all means. Those planets up there, they don't give a fuck about us. They don't care. They're just doing their thing, spinning, orbiting, being. But we care. We give them meaning. We give them names. We give them stories. And in doing so, we give ourselves meaning. So keep reading charts. Keep studying astrology. Keep showing up for people in their darkest moments and telling them the truth with love. Keep being the weirdos, the scapegoats, the rejects on Reject Hill who think the cosmos have something to say to us. And know that they do. And for fuck's sake, stop blaming everything on Mercury retrograde. Sometimes you're just having a bad day. Or bad month. Bad week. Thank you. You beautiful celestial narcissists. I'm here all week. Try the veil. And check your rising sign. Alright, now I want to get into another thing really quick, which is archetypal correlations between outer planetary transits and collective human events. So this is going to be pretty big, because I'm going to go over the Jupiter-Saturn cycle, 2,000 years of conjunctions as markers of historical transformation. Essentially, I'm going to present to you in this video a comprehensive analysis of Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions from 1000 BCE to 2400 CE, correlating these 20-year cyclical alignments with significant historical transitions, drawing on the foundational work of Abu Mashar in the 9th century and the subsequent development of conjunction theory through the medieval and Renaissance periods. We demonstrate a consistent correlation between great conjunctions and generational shifts in political, religious, and cultural paradigms. The 800-year trigon cycle, the rotation of conjunction series through the 4 elemental triplicities, emerges as a particularly significant marker of civilizational transformation. We examine key conjunctions, including the 7 BCE triple conjunction linked to the Nativity, the 1583 conjunction concluding the water trigon associated with apocalyptic expectations during the Radical Reformation, and the 2020 conjunction in Aquarius, marking the transition to the air trigon and the acceleration of technological consciousness. Our findings support the archetypal astrology framework proposed by Tarnas 2006, while extending it through quantitative analysis of conjunction proximity and historical intensity. So the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn occurring approximately every 19.859 years represents the longest visible planetary cycle available to pre-telescopic observers. Its rarity relative to other planetary meetings endowed it with exceptional significance in the astrological traditions of Mesopotamia, India, Persia, and Europe. The medieval Arabic astrologer Abu Mashar systematized conjunction theory in his De Magnis on the Great Conjunctions, arguing that these alignments mark the rise and fall of dynasties, religions, and empires. We're going to subject Abu Masar's theses to modern empirical scrutiny, examining 180 conjunctions over a 3,000-year period. We hypothesize that Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions correlate with what Tarnas terms generational shift points, moments when the archetypal principles of expansion, Jupiter, and contraction, Saturn, interact to restructure collective institutions. Let's go over the celestial mechanics of the Great Conjunction. So more significant than the individual conjunction is the trigon cycle. Successive conjunctions occur approximately 120 degrees apart in zodiacal longitude, forming a triangular pattern. After 3 conjunctions, approximately 60 years, the series returns to the same element but shifted approximately 8 degrees relative to the fixed stars. After approximately 800 through 900 years, the conjunctions complete a full cycle through all 4 elemental triplicities: fire, earth, air, water. Kepler calculated this great cycle at 794 years, 40 conjunctions, noting that the transition between trigons, particularly the initiation of a new elemental series, held exceptional historical significance. We analyzed all Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions between 1000 BCE and 2400 CE using ephemeris data from NASA JPL Horizons and the conjunction database compiled by GRIP 2021. For each conjunction, we recorded the date and the time, the zodiacal position, sidereal, Vedic, and tropical western, angular separation, elongation from the sun, triplicity membership, and position within trigon cycle. Historical correlations were established through cross-referencing with major political transitions, religious movements, technological innovations, and cultural paradigm shifts. A correlation index from 0.0 through 1.0 was assigned based on the proximity of historical events to conjunction windows, 3 years in the archetypal coherence between planetary symbolism and historical manifestation. Let's talk about our findings. Starting with the 7 BCE triple conjunction, a pivotal case. The triple conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn in 7 BCE, occurring in Pisces, has long been associated with the star of Bethlehem in the nativity narrative. Babylonian astronomical tablets BM 354-29 confirm this triple conjunction, which involved Jupiter and Saturn meeting 3 times within a single year due to retrograde motion. Archetypally, Jupiter, kingship, expansion, and Saturn, foundation, limitation, conjoining in Pisces, spirituality, the dissolution of boundaries, perfectly symbolizes the emergence of a new religious paradigm that would both expand Jupiter and structure Saturn, Western spirituality for 2 millennia. The triple nature of the conjunction, 3 meetings before final separation, echoes the threefold structure of Christian theology, Trinity, and the 3-year public ministry of Jesus Christ. Alright, let's talk about the 1583 conjunction and apocalyptic expectation. The Great Conjunction of 1583 marked the conclusion of the water trigon and the imminent transition to the fire trigon. This event generated widespread apocalyptic expectation across Europe, intensified by the proximity to the century mark. Pope Sixtus V issued the bull Coeli et Terrae 1586 against divination. A direct response to the conjunction predicted upheavals. When the feared cataclysm failed to materialize, public interest in conjunction astrology rapidly declined, contributing to astrology's marginalization from mainstream intellectual life. Archetypally, the water trigon, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, governs emotional, spiritual, and mystical dimensions of culture. Its conclusion in the late 16th century correlates with the shift from mystical Renaissance spirituality to the more rational, mechanistic worldview of the scientific revolution, a transition from water to fire, initiative, rationality. Alright, let's talk about the 2020 conjunction, air trigon initiation. The December 21st, 2020 conjunction in Aquarius at 6 separation, the closest since 1623, initiated a new 200-year air trigon series. Aquarius, Gemini, Libra, the air element governs communication, information, and collective intelligence. A correlation analysis identifies the following manifestations: domain archetypal expression, technology acceleration of AI integration into daily life, emergence of large language models 2022 through 2024, collective consciousness, global pandemic consciousness, collective trauma processing, communication decentralization of information authority, platform capitalism transformation, social structure reconfiguration of work, remote collaboration normalization. The conjunction's extreme proximity visible to the naked eye as a double planet amplified its archetypal intensity, correlating with the unprecedented pace of technological and social transformation in the early 2020s. Alright. Now I want to get into the 60-year subcycle generational shifts, where our analysis reveals that the 60-year subcycle, 3 conjunctions, consistently correlates with generational handoff points. So our period conjunction series, historical correlation, 1940 through 1941, Taurus, Earth, World War II culmination, atomic age dawn, 1960 through 1961, Capricorn, Earth, decolonization, space race initiation, 1980 through 1981, Libra, Air, digital revolution, Reagan, Thatcher, conservatism, 2000, Taurus, Earth, 9/11, paradigm shift, war on terror, and 2020, Aquarius, Air, AI revolution, post-pandemic world. Each 60-year cluster exhibits archetypal coherence with its elemental triplicity. Earth conjunctions correlate with material restructuring, war, economy, resources. Air conjunctions correlate with information revolutions and collective consciousness shifts. So here's our discussion. The persistence of conjunction theory across millennia, from Babylonian tablets through Abu-Masar to Kepler to contemporary research, suggests a genuine phenomenological correlation rather than mere retrospective pattern matching. The data support harnesses archetypal astrology framework. Planetary alignments don't cause events, but rather participate in a synchronous order where celestial configurations and human historical developments express common archetypal themes. Let's go over our several methodological considerations emerging. Proximity correlates with intensity. Exceptionally close conjunctions, being, lesser than 10 degrees, consistently coincide with periods of accelerated transformation. Elemental consistency conjunctions within the same trigon series exhibit archetypal coherence across centuries. And triple conjunctions amplify effect. When retrograde motion produces 3 meetings within 1 year, historical manifestations intensify. Alright, now let's get into the conclusion of this. The Jupiter-Saturn conjunction cycle offers a remarkably consistent correlation with historical periodization, from the 7 BCE conjunction marking Christianity's emergence to the 2020 conjunction initiating the air trigon's technological acceleration. These 20-year meetings serve as celestial punctuation in humanity's collective story. The 800-year Great Cycle, the completion of all 4 trigons, may represent the largest coherent unit of astrological historical analysis, corresponding to the rise and fall of civilizational epochs. Future research will examine the interaction between Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions and other outer planet cycles, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, to develop a multi-layered model of astrological history. Alright, now I want to get into the Uranus-Pluto cycle, which is revolutionary archetypes in modern history, 1850 through 2024. Brief introduction here. So Uranus-Pluto conjunction cycle, occurring approximately every 111 through 143 years, represents the most potent archetypal configuration for revolutionary transformation and collective life. This paper will examine the 2 most recent Uranus-Pluto cycles, the 1960s conjunction in Virgo, which actually consisted of multiple alignments from 1962 through 1968, and the 2012 through 2015 square, the first major aspect between these planets since the 1960s. Through detailed historical correlation, we demonstrate that Uranus-Pluto alignments consistently coincide with periods of profound technological innovation, political revolution, cultural upheaval, and the dissolution of established structures. The square aspect, traditionally considered challenging, emerges as equally potent as the conjunction, suggesting that the angular relationship matters less than the activation of the Uranus-Pluto archetypal field. We propose a base state transition model wherein Uranus-Pluto alignments function as critical thresholds in collective consciousness evolution. So Uranus, with its discovery in 1781, and Pluto, with its discovery in 1930, represent the outermost validated planets in modern astrology, governing the archetypal principles of revolution and innovation, Uranus, and transformation and dissolution, Pluto. Their conjunction in the 1960s marked one of the most significant astrological events of the 20th century, coinciding with unprecedented global upheaval. We are going to extend the analysis to include the 2012 through 2015 Uranus-Pluto square, the first major aspect between these planets since their 1960s conjunction, and examine whether similar archetypal patterns manifest despite the different angular relationship. So celestial mechanics, really quick. We go over the Uranus-Pluto synodic period and how it averages approximately 127 years, but varies significantly due to orbital eccentricity. So we have our cycle type dates, zodiac separation 1850 through 1851, conjunction in Aries, it was at 0 degrees, 1962 through 1968, there was a conjunction in Virgo at 0 degrees, multiple. 2012 through 2015, there was a square, Aries through Capricorn, 90 degrees. 2047 through 2048, there's an opposition at 180 degrees, and 2092 through 2093, there's a square, and of course it's 90 degrees. So the 2012 through 2015 square involved Uranus and Aries, initiative, assertion, squaring Pluto in Capricorn, structure, authority, collapse, a configuration archetypally suited for challenging established power structures. The 1960s Uranus-Pluto conjunction. The Uranus-Pluto conjunction of the 1960s was not a single event, but a series of alignments spanning 1962 through 1968 due to retrograde motion. During this period, Uranus and Pluto remain within 10 degrees of each other, creating an extended conjunction window. Now we look at our historical correlations with our domain manifestation archetypal expression. So political civil rights movement, anti-war protests, decolonization, student revolutions, Pluto, dissolution of traditional authority structures, Uranus, revolutionary assertion of individual rights, technological space race, computer revolution, nuclear proliferation, Uranus, technological breakthrough, Pluto, transformative destructive power, cultural, sexual revolution, psychedelic movement, rock music explosion, Uranus is liberation from convention, and Pluto is depth exploration of psyche. Scientific quantum mechanics maturation, discovery of pulsars, quasars, Earthrise photography, Pluto is uncovering hidden dimensions, and Uranus is paradigm rupture. The 1968 global protests simultaneously occurring in Paris, Chicago, Mexico City, Prague, Tokyo exemplify the Uranus-Pluto archetype, decentralized, spontaneous eruptions, challenging established power from multiple directions simultaneously. The quantitative correlation index. I'm going to go over the 2012 through 2015 Uranus-Pluto square. So the square between Uranus and Aries and Pluto and Capricorn activated the same archetypal principles as the 1960s conjunction, but through a different angular relationship. Where the conjunction suggests fusion and integration, the square indicates dynamic tension and confrontation. Our historical correlations are year event archetypal expression 2011, Arab Spring Uranus, sudden uprising, square Pluto, authoritarian regime collapse. 2013, NSA revelations, Edward Snowden, Uranus is information liberation, squaring Pluto, it's surveillance state. 2014, Ferguson, Black Lives Matter started to show up some more. Uranus, assertion of rights, square Pluto, systemic oppression. And 2015, climate accords, Paris, Uranus, collective action, square Pluto, planetary transformation. Now, let's go over our comparative analysis. So if we look, we know that there is that dimension with 1960s conjunction, 2012 through 2015 square, primary metaphor fusion, synthesis tension confrontation, political expression, liberation movements, anti-authoritarian uprisings, technological theme, computing dawn, AI acceleration, cultural mood, optimistic revolution, anxious transformation, generational label, baby boomers, millennials, Gen Z. Despite different aspects, both periods exhibit the core Uranus-Pluto signature, the challenging of established power through decentralized, technologically mediated collective action. Now let's take a look at the 1850 through 1851 conjunction. The previous Uranus-Pluto conjunction, 1850 through 1851 in Aries. It correlates with the revolutions of 1848, extended activation window, compromise of 1850, U.S. sectional crises, Commodore Perry's opening of Japan, 1853 through 54, Darwin's Origin of Species, 1859, American Civil War, 1861 through 1865. Aries placement, initiative, conflict, assertion, manifested through wars of unification, Italy, Germany, colonial expansion, and the U.S. Civil War, all expressions of assertive nationalism and territorial reconfiguration. Alright, so let's go into our discussion, which is the phase state transition model. We propose a phase state transition model for understanding Uranus-Pluto alignments drawn on complexity theory. These configurations function as critical thresholds where collective systems reorganize at higher levels of complexity. With our key principles being field activation precedes manifestation, the archetypal field activates 2 to 3 years before exact alignment and persists 2 to 3 years after. Angular relationship modulates expression. Conjunctions produce fusion, synthesis. Squares produce tension, confrontation. Oppositions produce polarization, reflection. Zodiacal placement provides thematic specification. Aries, 1960s, emphasizes initiative and conflict. Virgo, 1960s, emphasizes service and analysis. Capricorn, 2010s, emphasizes authority and structure. Historical intensity correlates with planetary proximity. The 1960s conjunction, multiple exact alignments produced sustained transformation. The 2012 through 2015 square 7 exact hits produce recurring crisis moments. Our conclusion. The Uranus-Pluto cycle offers one of the most reliable correlations between planetary movement and collective historical transformation, whether through conjunction, 1960s, or squares, 2010s. These alignments activate revolutionary and transformative archetypes that manifest across political, technological, and cultural domains. The phase state transition model provides a framework for understanding how the same archetypal principles express differently based on angular relationship and zodiacal placement. As we approach the 2047 through 2048 Uranus-Pluto opposition, we can anticipate polarization and reflection themes, the confrontation between revolutionary and conservative forces, reaching dialectical resolution. All right. And then I'm pretty sure I'll be done with, yeah. Okay, so I have another installment in this tab. This time it's Pluto transits and civilizational transformation, a 500-year retrospective. And I'm going to have to take a bathroom break. So, I will come back to making another video. Thank you for watching this with peace and love. I appreciate it. And I will see you in the next one. Subscribe, like, comment, keep me in the algorithm, keep astrology uplifted, and we'll see you there.